Welcome to Season 3 of the Spotlight series, Don't Just Survive, Thrive. Season 1 was launched to help people through the pandemic by talking to a variety of experts about topics such as psychology, finance, and health. Season 2 focused on more work-related issues, including HR, marketing, and leadership. Now it is time for Season 3. Season 3 is centered on the IT industry, specifically tech startups. There are also career spotlights where I talk to senior IT people about the secrets to their impressive career journeys. My name is Nicola Steel, founder of JJP Talent Solutions, an Australian IT recruitment company. For over 20 years, I've helped tech startups and innovative SMEs to attract, recruit, and retain technical talent. I hope you enjoy listening. I am delighted to introduce Maree Beare. Maree is the founder and CEO of Wanngi. She is a consumer health advocate and is listed in Forbes' top 50 women-led startups disrupting Healthtech. Maree is also a previous cohort of the Activate program with River City Labs. Maree, thank you for joining me on Season 3, Episode 8 of the Spotlight series, Don't Just Survive, Thrive.
Thank you, Nicola. And that's exactly what I'm aiming to do, thrive.
Perfect. Fantastic. Thank you. So, Maree, tell me a bit more about your background and your personal story.
Well, I like to surprise people sometimes to say that I have been involved in technology my whole life. And that actually means since my first role out of school, I had a role with scientists and technology. And essentially, I have been involved with technology in lots of different roles my whole career. And I guess that's what I bring to the table in the startup, that ability to move with whatever's going on in the world.
That's fantastic. So coming from a really strong technical foundation there. That's brilliant. And you've worked as a project management consultant in government, corporate environments and everything. So what made you decide to make that leap to startup land?
Well, there's a couple of parts to this. The first one was obviously I saw there's a problem. My husband was involved in digital health tech at the time, and I learned about what was happening with the future of digital health, and that inspired me to think, well, surely I can help solve this problem. I can run major projects in government and compliance. So why can't I solve this problem for people? So I figured I would give it a go. And I guess also I was looking for something. I was at that point in my career where I was actually looking for something different. And I'm sure that many people go through this at certain stages of their life. They're looking for that I guess that golden light, and I found that in this idea, and so I thought I would take it on, and I figured that it was like a large project, right? What could be different, but I guess the thing is, yes, a startup is like a large project, except you don't have a lot of other people to help you. And when you're a startup, the buck stops with you. And I guess that's the good and the bad part, is that, when you're a startup, you really have to wear many hats initially, until you can become a billionaire company, and then you can have many people do that for you.
Absolutely. And I think you're at that bootstrapping kind of stage at the moment, and as you say, wearing lots of different hats, and not having all those processes that you might have in place in those larger corporate government type environments. And I loved what you said about looking for that different thing, which I think a lot of people want at a certain point in their career get like that and want to do something different. So you mentioned the problem. So what was the problem that you really wanted to solve? What was the purpose behind Wanngi?
Well, the purpose is really to champion the best health treatment for people. And what I saw when I first begun was that, it's like you don't know what you don't know. And this is how life is. And certainly it's like that in projects, you don't know what you don't know. But that's also the same for us in life, and with our health, right? 62% of the people don't have access to any health information, and that has significant impacts on us being able to control what happens and the costs of our healthcare. So really my vision is about, if I can enable people to have that control or that empowerment, how might that improve their communication, that ability to manage their health, and improve their conversations that they have at their next clinician appointment or their telehealth appointment, and how that might change their diagnosis and, for many people, their life.
Completely. I guess with Wanngi, for example, I moved to Australia in 2012, and getting your health records from the UK to Australia is extremely difficult. But if you had it all in the app, it would have been wonderful.
Yeah.
And similarly, do you have the little red book here for your kids? So I lost the little red book in transit. So I couldn't remember all the details of my children's vaccinations and what have you. And again, Wanngi would have resolved that problem for me. So I think it's great to give you that power, and that information there.
Yeah. And on those little books, so I had my children in 2 different states. So you might have had a red book. I've had maroon books and a yellow book. So that, I guess, is just really, if we think about that as your health records, many people travel. And so your health information is in many different places, in many different states, in many different countries. And so how can you bring it all together? And I guess visualize that.
Yes, absolutely. And simplify it to a certain extent to start that conversation.
That's right.
So we've been living with COVID now for, 8 months, I think. And what has really changed with regards to COVID about a digital health response?
Well, what we've noticed is that the whole world is moving to, or started to move to, digital health. Well, obviously, the community in severe COVID scenarios had to move to telehealth and digital health. So if you're having a telehealth appointment, how do you communicate your health history? Now, if you went and looked up the instructions for how to use telehealth, there's a one-liner there: communicate your health history. Now, if your past is in a manila folder or sheets of paper, and you've traditionally been walking into a health appointment, a physical health appointment, with those pieces of paper or with that manila folder, what can you do then? Right. So this is what's changed. Firstly, what we had like 10 years of talking about telehealth, and then it was delivered in 10 days. And then we had, well, did it actually happen? Mostly it happened with phone calls, but some, clinicians did move to video conferences. But even so, even with a phone call, how do you know who you're speaking to? How do you know and communicate that health information? And how do you do it effectively? And this is what's changed. And so what we did in recognition of that, during COVID in the beginning of this year, was create a health history report. So people, at the click of a button, can export their health history and upload it during a telehealth appointment. Or if it was a phone call, then just email us PDF report, right? So there were some simplistic things that we put in place. But essentially that digital health capability is only going to escalate, into 2021 and beyond. the healthcare system is moving to home monitoring devices, and consumers may be welcome or unwelcome participants in that. So, this is the future.
Yes, definitely. And I guess as the population continues to grow, it's a much better way to manage that health response as well.
Yeah, that's right.
So you've got Wanngi.
Yes.
You've got a lot of history within the health industry. You are in the top 50 women-led startups disrupting health tech and a consumer health advocate. So why, Maree, are you so passionate about health tech?
I am passionate because if I think about every time I have a conversation with someone about what I'm doing, they always tell me their stories about what's happening to them in their health and the difficult journey that they have. And the issue that we have is that we have a legacy healthcare system, and it makes us feel very passive. I mean, you can have the most intelligent person in the world, but when they're sitting in a chair talking to a doctor, often people become a child because they don't feel empowered and they don't feel in control. And this is the legacy that we have. So when I have those conversations, that when people say they've been misdiagnosed, or they have not been listened to, or that it's just taken a long time for them to be diagnosed, I it just gives me faith that I'm on the right track, and that I need to continue and to provide this tool for people to start feeling empowered. And it's a journey, for them to start realizing that they can change, right? They can change that conversation from being disempowered, misinformed, miscommunicating, to start being a communicator or informed.
That's such a great story. And I remember when I first met you and you were telling me about Wanngi, what Wanngi did. And I think I told you part of my story as well. And this podcast isn't about me, it's about you. But I think everyone does have a story, or whether it relates to themselves or relates to a family member or a friend, about where they felt helpless or ignored. And this, as you say, would give much more power to the patient. So, Maree, you've been involved in the Activate program with River City Labs. Tell me a bit more about your experience and what advice you'd give to the next cohort and future participants.
Well, first of all, it was a very positive experience, and also a timely experience. So think about the time we're in this year. It's been, a difficult journey for many of us for many reasons. And in my situation, I guess I was a startup that really had to hunker down during COVID, make some, critical decisions to survive, and then work out how I was going to come out of that and scale up. So this opportunity came about to, apply for the Activate program and be accepted. And, I was so excited because even though I've been a startup since 2017, this was the first opportunity for me to be part of an accelerator program. So I actually felt very emotional to be accepted, and to, I guess, absorb all of the mentor help that was available, yourself included. I felt it overwhelming at times, and very difficult because, I have so many balls in the air and, not enough time in the day. But I desperately needed the support and the help of the mentors, and certainly received that. So, I'm very, very grateful for that. And I guess for me, it was pivotal for me to get back on track, understand what I needed to do to move forward in scaling my company, and the conversations I needed to have around facilitating partnership opportunities. So, pivotal for me, and I'm extremely grateful.
That's fantastic. And I think you were the second cohort of Activate, were you?
Yes, I was. Yes.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. So, and I think the next cohort's coming through very imminently. So, what advice would you give to them, do you think?
Well, I'm always a go for it person. So, I think my current understanding is say yes unless you really, really get talked out of it, or say no. But say yes as much as possible, because often other people see something in you that you don't necessarily see, and particularly as women, we often, it's this traditional thing where we don't do something unless we can do it 100%, right? And so I think, if you're in that situation, just say yes if you get accepted, or go for it. You're going to have mentors that provide advice and support to help you scale, and that's so valuable, or start up. You ultimately can decide, with that advice, whether you take it or not. But that's also part of the process, because in the startup game, if you like, or the sector, you are the pinpoint trajectory. Someone wants to give you advice, and it can be very overwhelming with that advice, and so some of it can be almost self-harming, but you have to work out a way to like a strategy of going, okay, well, that's useful, that's not. Geez, I really am so happy that I heard that, even though it was painful, and so on. So I think, my advice is, just go for it. If you get accepted, or be part of it, it's it's very useful tool.
That's great. And I think advice, as you say, you can get almost advice paralysis when you're listening to everybody, and then you get contradictory advice. So you need to know as well where you want to go and what advice you want to take. And I love that. Just take the opportunity and go with it. I'm of that school of thought, and kind of figure it out along the way, which that kind of pressure is kind of good as well, I find. So what were your main challenges, would you say, when you started? And were these intensified because you are a female founder?
Oh, look, there's not enough hours in the day to talk about how many challenges there are as a startup.
Top three.
Yeah, the top three. Look, I think, first of all, I guess there's the whole learning all of the skills that you need to have in a startup, because I think, we talked about the many hats. But then in that is learning, okay, which ones you're really good at and which ones you really need to outsource. I think that's a key skill. And also, really prioritizing time for growth of your business. That is certainly a challenge, when you have so many jobs to do, as a startup. So I think, prioritizing your growth is obviously a big challenge. I'm not sure I've overcome all of these. Certainly, a challenge, I think, is funding. Definitely, it's really not easy to get funding. And I certainly haven't overcome that yet either, because there's a conflict. You need to grow marketing, but you need to create partnerships, but then you also need to create traction, and then need to get funding. And there's also these categories of whether you're a seed or before seed. So I think there's a lot of disparity in challenges around the funding of, and also even understanding. I'm working in a new sector called Healthtech. It's not the same as selling cars, right? It's the fact that most consumers are still feeling overwhelmed with the healthcare system means that this sector is new and not well understood. And so that, I believe, is actually one of my main challenges. And because if you're also working with, VCs that don't also understand that sector, that's a challenge as well.
Definitely. And actually, I did a podcast with one of the mentors, Lou Jory, from River City Labs, the entrepreneur in residence, earlier this year. And he said that getting funding at the moment is really difficult. But I think the future's starting to look better. We'll wait and see there. And you mentioned as well, in terms of being a female founder, you were talking about how women like to tick all the boxes. And almost, this was in the previous question, but do you think the challenges of being a female founder have been intensified, or is it not a gender issue?
Look, I think there's still a lot of work to be done. Ultimately, I think there's always boys' clubs and women are excluded from them. I've certainly seen that many times in my career. And so there's probably conversations that are had, that we're not even part of. And so we don't then get recommended, or we don't get included in those opportunities.
Yeah.
It's a hidden challenge.
And can you think of any way to overcome that?
Look, the more women that we have in those executive roles and decision-making roles, the less that challenge will be.
Yeah. So it's kind of a catch-22 almost about making that happen as well, about bringing more women into senior positions. So coming back to Wanngi, what are your core values and how has that really driven the culture of Wanngi?
I am very conscious of providing a diverse culture, and I've tried to do that, where the team thrives together, and ultimately increases the value of their career. I mean, health tech is a new sector, so anyone who works in a health tech startup is certainly going to increase the trajectory of their career in any way, really. But I think as a woman, I try to obviously make sure that I include women in my team, that are technical as well, because we need to make sure that we do as we say.
Absolutely, definitely. And I think, is your team about 4 or 5 people now?
Well, we've got about 4 or 5 people. We also have interns, included in the project as well. And really interesting that I've been involved with this year with my interns. I've had feedback from interns that have said that the value that they've received from a work environment has been, and particularly with us, has far exceeded their expectations. And in fact, I've had some examples of interns that have had to wanted to come back, that they have, finished their internship and then realised that at the uni they need to do more, and the uni has said, well, go back and do another internship, because we provide so much value. When students are at uni, they really just get a snapshot of a topic, and they don't really get a real world experience until they come out and become part of the workforce. And I think I saw actually a post today by the CEO of Swinburne, and she said that she wants to change her uni so that students actually have a working year. Right, it's so valuable for them to learn as they're studying. So I guess there's been some really positive experiences that I've had, with people blossoming.
That's fantastic. And I love that term, blossoming, watching people really grow and blossom. And even if they don't stay part of your organisation but go off somewhere else and do really well, it's almost like a proud parent that you see them blossom. And as you've been growing, the company's grown, have you encountered any issues with that?
Oh, look, I mean, I've had to grow and then reduce and then grow. I guess this is part of whether you have funding available or not, as a startup. And so that has its challenges at times. And certainly, many companies during this time have had to, reduce employees' hours, to keep going. So, yeah, I think that growing teams and maintaining the skill set of the team is quite difficult.
So, if you could turn back the clock, Maree, would you do anything differently?
Oh, look, it's I guess if I turn back the clock, would I still have a startup? Oh, look, I think that I would. I'd probably be wiser about some decisions. I'd make some harder decisions sooner. I guess hindsight is great.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think if we had hindsight, we'd make some harder decisions sooner.
Yes. And then overall, you're 3.5 years in now with Wanngi. What are your long-term plans? Where do you want to see the organisation in 5, 10, 20 years' time?
Well, now, great question. And this is also relevant to if we look at the history of health tech companies and digital health companies specifically, the cycle is quite long. It's not something that happens overnight. There's quite a process of I guess, validation. So, we expect this is going to take some time. We plan on growing our partnerships, onboarding partnerships to be sustainable. That is also part of a cycle of health tech companies as well. And ultimately we'll either grow quite large or get bought out, or we'll fail. So there are like three options. So I'm hoping that it won't be the fail one, but it's going to be grow quite large or get bought out.
Yeah, we don't want the last one.
No.
Well, best of luck. I think you've got some really fantastic plans and ideas, apart from obviously the latter one.
That's a reality check, You always say that one because sometimes that's actually quite a good one to acknowledge, right? Because sometimes just saying, oh, look, if you get to a certain point and certain things aren't happening, then you should stop, right? That's just, one of those lessons.
Yes, I guess as well, that's the worst case scenario. And there's no point in flogging a dead horse, so to speak. If the worst happens, what we do next is a contingency type plan. But really, what you obviously want is the success and the growth or being bought out.
Massive growth. Yeah, that's what we want.
And I forgot to ask you a question as well. Wanngi, where does the name come from?
Oh, excellent question. Well, it's related to what we're doing. It means health and life. It's an Indigenous word. And what we truly wanted to encompass, to the level of the name that, we want to, improve people's life and health.
That's fantastic. Thank you so much for sharing your insights, Maree. Is there anything else that you'd like to share?
I would just like to share that, come along to the Wanngi site. You can have a try of Wanngi, start collecting your health records and provide a digital health report at your next doctor's appointment. And I would like to see how that feels.
Perfect.
Let me know.
Brilliant. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I hope that you enjoyed this episode. Please remember to subscribe, rate, and review. If you're looking for career advice, your next career opportunity, or to grow your tech team, then please call me, Nicola Steel, on 0499 773 546, or go to our website, jjptalent.com.au. The Don't Just Survive, Thrive podcast is part of the Spotlight series, which includes the YouTube channel Spotlight on Software Development. If you want more insights into the software industry, particularly tech startups, then subscribe to the Spotlight on Software Development YouTube channel. Thank you for listening. Until next time.